The title for what I want to share with us today is Retrospect and Prospect. Today is a historic moment in the life of our church for many, many reasons. But first, retrospect. That has to do with considering previous events or past events. What we're experiencing today and celebrating today probably goes back 10 or 12 or even more years than that, with a desire to see more space available for our children. But it was in May of 2009, on Senior Adult Day here at our church, when we as a pastoral staff just sort of looked over the congregation and we realized that the vast majority of the traditional service and about 40% of our contemporary service were made up mainly of senior adults. We had an annual planning retreat later that month, and we looked into the statistics of our church, and we found that the average age of our church membership was 50, and that it had been rising steadily over the last number of years. So we realized that we needed to look at something. And so in the summer of 2009, I visited our young adult Sunday school classes and talked with them. I sat down with them along with Charlotte, our office manager, and recorded their conversations, their comments. And then later that summer, we did a congregational survey where we asked our entire congregation of their perceptions and their comments. And then in September, we initiated or launched a group called the Families Task Force in September of 2009. And we purposely had leadership on that team from young adults, median adults, and senior adults. We wanted a broad cross-section of our church. And then a year later, October 2010, at our 100-year anniversary, we unveiled what we called Hope for the Future. And it was based mainly with a desire to be a multi-generational church, that we not be mainly senior adults or median adults or young adults, but a multi-generational church. And for the facilities to accommodate that. After 3 months of prayer and fasting, in the end of January of 2011, we voted as a church 87% to proceed with Hope for the Future. At that time, the projected cost was somewhere between $4 million and $6 million. And it has come out to be right at $5.5 million. We have conducted 2 fundraising campaigns, the first one called Beyond Measure, and the second one, Moving Forward. And we as a church raised a little over $2 million over and above our regular tithes and offerings for our budget. Amazing, amazing contribution and commitment. And we took out a bank loan with Coastal. I'm sorry, not Coastal. Yeah, I'm right. That's right. I got so many banks running through my head. Of $3.5 million to complete the project. On that day in October of 2010, the passage that I used to share that vision with you is this. It's found in Isaiah 54, 1 through 3. And let me read it for you. It says, "Sing, O barren one who did not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, you who have not been in labor. For the children of the desolate one will be more than the children of her who is married, says the Lord. Enlarge the place of your tent, and let the curtains of your habitations be stretched out. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. For you will spread abroad to the right and to the left, and your offspring will possess the nations and will people the desolate cities. This was a prophecy of Isaiah somewhere around 700 BC. And this took place, the answer to this was over 200 years later, when after they had been, the children of Israel had been conquered by the Babylonians, taken into exile, and then they were brought back to their land. And God fulfilled this prophecy in Isaiah 54. And not long after I shared this passage with you as a congregation, a lady in our church by the name of Jennifer Hayes came to me and said, "Pastor, I have a bit of a problem with that passage." And I said, "Okay, let's talk about it." And Jennifer, where are you? Come on up here. Where's a microphone, Dennis? That right here? Okay, here's one. Steve. Jennifer, if you would join me right here. And is this on, guys? Steve Renna had it. It's the one down front. Try and see. Not really. Now try it and see.
Check, check, check.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Hello, check. Okay, there we go.
Jennifer, in your own words, briefly, why did you have a problem with this passage? What was it a concern for you?
Well, at the time, we had been trying to get pregnant for, I'm trying to think at that time. We tried for 3 years total, and at that time, I think it had been a couple years. So he started preaching at this time, right when we were struggling with a lot of grief and loss, not knowing if we would ever be able to have children. So right at the same time, he's preaching on "Sing, O barren woman." And so my struggle with that was just the scriptures saying to sing, not saying "Sing, you woman who's had children." It was saying, "Sing, O barren woman." And at the time, that was just a struggle for me. And it was just a blessing to see how the Lord used this passage in my life to teach me to have joy in the midst of really, really, really hard sorrow. And at the same time, to see how God was, going to use this passage to grow our church family.
And Matt wanted to be here today. He's a fireman. He had to work. But there they were, and this passage confronted them with the fact that at that time they were barren. But out of that, God began to do an amazing thing in their life. And a few years later, God brought fruit to their life by children. And not just one, but two. And let's have the two young ladies, Madison and Bailey. Could you guys come and join us here? Come on up. Join your mom up here. When we started Hope for the Future in 2010, these little girls did not exist. Matt and Jennifer were experiencing this passage. We were being asked to sing. And as God began to work in their life, they began to sing. And today they come here. I asked them to be here today to give you living proof of how God can fulfill a promise when it seems hopeless and it seems barren. When they told me that they were expecting not one, but two, I knew then that what we have just dedicated today, I knew it was going to happen. I knew it. And it just needed time for this day to come. And so, Jennifer, I'm so glad that God spoke to you and Matt in this way, and that you now have reason to sing in the midst of hopelessness. Mm-hmm. And young girls, we are so glad that you're here, that you are a product of God's promise to First Baptist Church, Niceville. And you're going to be in that building. Did you get to see that building today? Did you go through it? Did you find your room? You did? All right. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, prospect. Prospect has the idea of a mental picture of something to come, expectation or possibility. And the planning team for this day chose the verse from the book of Job, chapter 8, verse 7. And here is what that verse says. Your beginnings will seem humble, so prosperous will your future be. This verse combines both the past and the future. And certainly our beginnings seemed humble. I'm not talking about 7 years ago. I'm talking about the beginning of this church in 1910. There were 29 members of Goodwater Baptist Church of Christ in Walton County that met to start a Baptist work in Boggy Bayou. Now, Goodwater Baptist Church of Christ is in the Black Oak community there in Walton County. And for some reason, God put it on their heart that there ought to be a Baptist witness here in this area. And soon after that, it started. They first met in a schoolhouse at what is now the intersection of Highway 20 and Palm Boulevard. It was not Highway 20 back then. This is a little schoolhouse where the Coastal Bank is located today. The given name was Damascus Baptist Church of Boggy Bayou. Now, how would you like to be telling people that's where you go to church today? But it met every second Sunday of the month. It could not meet every week because it was not at that time ready to be full time, but it met once a month on the second Sunday. And they usually met on Saturday for a little bit of a business meeting, and then they had the worship service in that little schoolhouse on Sunday morning, and because of travel problems, they would also have an afternoon or evening service as well, and then everybody would go home. The early pastors were paid sometimes from just a public offering, sometimes in mullet, and one time he was given a pair of pants. That was his pay. There was one early pastor who walked from Defuniak Springs on Saturday, preached here on Sunday, and he walked back to Defuniak Springs on Monday. That was some of the early sacrifice that was put into this church. In July of 1911, a year later, they started a building fund, a campaign to eventually build a building. They had a goal of $59 per member. And the building was completed 11 years later in 1922 on this property. Now, we've seen Retrospect with Jennifer and Matt and Madison and Bailey, but today let's look at Prospect. And I'd like to have Sadie and Josie join me up here. Could you girls join me? And we'll stand, maybe stand over here, okay? Come on up, girls. And again, we'll need this microphone. You would hold that, Sadie, and just stand over here a little bit, because I know it's folks over here, it's hard to see, but stand right over here, and Josie, you next to her. And this is Sadie and Josie Van Zandt. And I'm going to ask you a few questions, and Josie, if you want to answer too, that would be okay. The first question is, how old are you? How old are you, Sadie?
7.
Hold the microphone up. How old?
7.
7. Josie, how old are you?
4.
4? Okay, she's 4. These two young girls have been giving to Hope for the Future. And Sadie, how long have you been giving to Hope for the Future?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. Josie, do you remember how long it's been for you? She's been giving. Sadie, when do you give? When do you do that? Hold up your microphone.
Each week.
Each week? You do this each week? You mean you actually fill out an envelope and put your money in there?
Unless we're gone.
And what?
Unless we're gone.
Unless you're gone. Okay, unless they're not here.
Hey, let's go.
Okay. You have to be specific with the questions. Sadie, why are you doing this? Why are you giving? Hold up the microphone. Why are you doing this? Is it simply because you'd like a nice building?
No.
Oh, why is that? I think you told your parents you were doing it because why?
So more people can come to church.
So more people can come to church. And you wanted to tell them about Jesus. Yeah. Well, have you seen your room yet? Have you seen your room?
Yes.
Josie, have you seen your room? You have? Okay. Are you excited about it? You're not. She's not. Sadie, if you do the same thing, I'm in trouble. Are you excited about your room?
Yes.
What color is it? Do you remember what color it is?
I know it's blue.
It's blue. Okay. Well, they saw it today full time for the first time. And we want to thank you, girls. Thank you very much. This is Prospect. This is Prospect. Thank you. Before we close, why did we start with children and youth? There were some who wanted to build a new sanctuary, felt like we needed a new sanctuary. But we tried to remind ourselves of what we're about, being a multi-generational church. And it was considered that we should start with the children, start with the youth, because of our multi-generational emphasis. Another reason was because of the security issues that we were facing. In our old buildings, there were 5 entrances that people could come into to bring their children. None of us liked that. We tried our best to make this building secure for our children, and we did succeed at that. But now we have one entrance for parents to bring their children in, and one exit, and we are so very glad about that. We now have a safe and secure space for our children. And for the growth of our children and youth. You saw all these B students that are here. We will have a little over 100 B students in our school this fall. And it's growing. We have a waiting list to get on that. Now we're going to be able to accommodate more and more children. So our prospect, today we have dedicated and opened our new children's and youth building. Starting tomorrow, there will be renovation taking place in the old children's space. I'm so glad to be able to say that, old children's space. Renovated for adults. And we made a promise to our senior adults that when we did this, they would not have to go up one step or down one step. And we are able to fulfill that promise. And then, as most of you know, I announced my retirement in January by the end of this year. And hopefully by later in this year, we're going to have a new pastor. And I hope he's younger than I am. He will bring new ideas and new energy. And I can say with all of you, because I'm going to stay here, I want to have a good pastor too. We can say today that the future has begun at First Baptist Church, Niceville. Steve, come on up, brother.